All right, in this video, I will drop knowledge on how to get your business from about 1 or 2 million revenue a year to 10 times that size through what I call the art of experimentation and testing. I will use examples from my experience in the companies that I've built. Those companies do over 200 million in revenue a year. A couple of years ago, I did an exit of selling the first company that I started called Avafin, and we sold it for over 50 million euros to Capitec, a big retail bank in South Africa. And since 2020, 21, I've been building companies, looking for new business models, new products, and giving shares to a CEO and backing these companies with seed capital. And then these CEOs are building the companies independently. And behind these companies lay a constant struggle with the question of how do you scale the business significantly. The difference is that most successful businesses are built to optimize this experimentation. Experiments is what allows you to reach a certain level, then plateau, but then break out from this level to get to the next point in growth. And what do I mean by experimentation? We're not talking about linear growth. For example, how to increase turnover by 5 to 10%, or what price changes to do, or what small product feature improvements to make. This is all important, and this is what managers do, and those are very important things. I'm in no way saying that that's not important. What the business owner needs to focus on is fundamental breakthroughs, how to multiply the business tenfold or fivefold. So if you look at this graph in the slide, you see a simplistic explanation of how a business cycle looks like for every company. There's a startup growth, there's a startup phase, then the growth phase, and then there's always a plateau somewhere where the business gets stuck, right? And that's important because at that point you need the experiments to break through. Yes. So the first task for you as a business owner in terms of thinking about experimentation is to list 1 month of your working time. Think about where you spend it on. Yes, as accurately and as honestly as possible. So for example, yes, let's say you spent 2 hours reviewing a contract with a client. Let's say you spent 30 minutes making a money transfer, or you are going to a different country to meet a client to discuss a potential deal, or you're resolving an employee conflict, and so on and so forth. Yes. Then calculate if these tasks were performed by another person, either it's an existing employee or somebody that you would hire, how much you would pay that person. And what you will most likely conclude is that you are performing relatively low value added tasks and work, or in other words, something that somebody for a salary of 2,000 to 5,000 euros a month could do as well as you're doing, or even better. Yes. And so it's quite possible that the first breakthrough that you need to make in your business as a business owner in order to be able to experiment and have breakthroughs is to make sure you don't perform low value tasks. Yes. And of course, any founder that's involved in the active operations of the business into day-to-day, they will know the details, right? But it's important to make sure that your involvement is deliberately limited and it's not all over the place. It's not general, yes? And until this breakthrough is achieved, we can simply forget about talking about other experiments and other ideas, yes? Okay, in the next session, let's go through the process that I use for business experiments, and let's go through that step by step. So the number one step is that experiments require a separate, dedicated resource, yes? And the main resource is the person who is engaged in these experiments and who is responsible for them. In other words, that's you, the business owner, yes, the entrepreneur. What you should not do is ask your existing employees to figure out these breakthroughs and to even execute them, because they are not skilled to do them. Most likely they are too busy, and possibly they just simply don't want to do such tasks. So this creates a classic so-called chicken and egg problem in a business, where there's an existing business that you've built. It's probably relatively small, couple of million euros in revenue a year. Maybe it's breaking even, or maybe making some money. But in order to grow more, you again need to spend more. Yes. And so many entrepreneurs kind of get stuck here because they fear that losing money again is absolutely no-go. And it's most important always to work with a profit. But in reality, the key to success in business and longevity in business is not that you always operate with a profit, but you always have money in your bank account. And so that leads us to let's say, the step 2 in this process, which is that in order to conduct even one high quality experiment for getting breakthroughs in your business and 10x your business, you need to have additional funding, literally additional cash, yes, in order to hire new people, in order to launch ads and do all of these activities in parallel to your existing business, yes. And so therefore, I will give you another homework, another task, which is, in case you even don't need to raise money, in case you have the money in your bank account, even in that situation, what I propose you to do is to create an investment presentation about your company, pitch it to at least 50 investors. By pitching it to investors, I don't mean that you send some kind of a cold email to some connections on LinkedIn, but what I actually mean is you get those investors either on a call or a video call, or you get them in a physical meeting. Yes. What's the purpose of doing this? Number one is, in the best case scenario, you will raise some money, and that will give you the chance to accelerate the growth. Yes, you will be able to experiment. In the worst case scenario, or in the other scenario, you don't raise money, but the actual task of going out in the market, presenting your business to investors, forces you to refine your message. It forces you to figure out and handle criticism, and it makes you talk to investors and receive general feedback from the market. Yes, and that feedback in itself is already a very good ground for figuring out where you should do experiments and what you should change in your business to make it grow faster. So step number 3, in parallel to all the other tasks that I mentioned before, the third task is to outline what your business would look like if it was 10 times bigger, and describe it in a short but concise 5 to 10 slide presentation. Yes, similar to the investment presentation that I mentioned you do. This is a basically description of your vision of the company, something that describes the preferred version of the future of your business. Yes. Okay. And in this document that we would call the vision of the future, what you need to include is describe the products that you will be selling in, let's say, 3 to 5 year time span in detail, right? Is it the same product but better quality? Are these different products that you're going into? Describe the market. Is it different countries that you would look to service, or is it different segments? Describe what types of customers you want to address. Importantly, describe what types of people you want to have in your team, maybe even specific people that you know that you want to hire, but maybe cannot hire now. And have a time limit to all of these plans, specifically 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. Also remember that people mostly overestimate what they can do in a short term, let's say in 1 year, and underestimate what they can do in the long term, let's say in a 4 to 5 year time span. So don't think that you're gonna, create the next Google in the next 24 months, right? But you can significantly grow your company in 3 to 5 years, and also add simple financial numbers across different quarters for this vision. Describe what your revenue is going to be, describe what your net profit is going to be, and lastly, also add KPIs such as new customer intake per quarter or per month, or what proportion of repeat clients you're going to have in your overall portfolio. So part of this document can serve as the basis for the investment presentation, and vice versa. The investment presentation also can be the basis for this document. The difference is investment presentation is meant to be presented to outside of the company audience, while the vision document is meant to be used for people inside of the company, employees, important stakeholders, shareholders, and so on. So what you don't need to think about is how to achieve all of these things that you describe in your vision document, right? It's not a tactical plan of how to get there. It is a description of your desired future that needs to be a bit scary, but also believable, so that you can actually feel that you can achieve it. Yes? Share this with your team, or even in the creation of this vision document, involve your most trusted and best team members. And also, as I would say, those who are laughing about this exercise, or those who are getting bored by it in your team, you can just prepare to fire them. In this section, I will describe the exact steps that you need to actually run specific experiments. So I'll give you a few tools that you can use to come up with ideas of how to make experiments and in which areas of the business to do those experiments. And the first one is not really a step. It's just a kind of hygiene factor where it's important to define what exact goals you have for your experiment, which means instead of saying, okay, I want to increase my business 2 times or 5 times and I just want to have it bigger, you have to define that, let's say you want to double your new customer intake per month in the next 24 months, or you want to, let's say, increase by 30% the average ticket or the average sale amount that you have in your business within the next 12 months or such specific measures. Yes. So effectively, the first tool that you can use to think where do you exactly focus on to make experiments is the bottleneck audit, which is basically the easiest and the fastest way to define potential breakthroughs in your company. Which means you simply look at what are the main inhibiting or what are the main problem factors in the existing business. What slows you down right now today? While this seems like a very generic point, right? Looking at bottlenecks, looking at what doesn't work in the business. It seems like you do it every day. But let me give you a specific example to illustrate what I mean here. So in my first company, Cream Finance, we reached a stage, I think year 4 or 5 or 3 maybe, where the number of employees grew from 50 to 200 employees in 1 year. Before that, the growth was double or triple in terms of revenue every year, right? After we had hit that hyper growth phase in terms of number of employees, the growth actually stagnated and plateaued for about 1.5 years. And we identified that there were a lot of complex new projects in the company, a lot of problems with the teamwork, with how we run product development, and all of these things were just stuck and were not working, and the quality of any output in the company was very low. So that was our bottleneck, yes? And we tested and tried different things to improve it, to remove a number of things we do, and so on and so forth. But the one experiment that did work was that we implemented project management training across all levels of employment, starting with the shareholders all the way down to people that are picking up phones and talking to customers. Focus on project management systematic training enabled us to get back to the growth of about 50% per year. So that was our experiment that enabled the breakthrough. Okay, next tool is to change your information environment. And so what I mean by that, you're not gonna have breakthroughs in your business if you just keep coming to the office, meeting the same people, sitting by the desk, and researching stuff on Google or repeating the same things in your daily operations. As a challenge, as another homework that I propose is that you figure out 1 or 2 world-class global trade shows or exhibitions, something that's very specific to your specific business, to your industry. Those are not entertainment events that you go to and listen to inspiring speakers. Those are things that are relevant for your business. And then you spend the money, you spend the time to go to those events, and you have a target of not listening, to speakers on the stage or getting information, but you only have a target of meeting as many new people as possible, yes? So another tool is what I would call industrial espionage. Sounds very serious, sounds like a James Bond movie, but actually it's pretty simple. So what I propose you to do is to conduct a competitor research. And you do that by setting out to hire a top industry expert and professional for a job in your company that might not even exist. Yes. So let's say you come up with a position in your company that is a head of product or even a CEO, whatever sounds very serious and very cool. And you start actively reaching out for people from your biggest competitors and you try to talk to their leading executives and bring them in for interviews as if you would be hiring potentially for this imaginary role. Yes. And through these interviews, you can extract valuable industry insights. Yes, and believe me, a large part of very successful entrepreneurs are specialized in extracting this kind of very valuable information, and they're effectively, thieves of this type of information. And they therefore know what experiments other bigger, more successful companies are doing. They know who are the best people in those companies. They know which which markets they're focused on, and what works and what doesn't. Yes. All right. The last point I would suggest in this list of tools is to ask your employees for ideas in terms of what tests and experiments to make, but don't ask them for execution. Yes, don't try to get them to implement things in your business that could grow it 10 times. Ask for ideas, because obviously those employees that are good, they will probably know what's not working in the company. They will probably have some ideas on how to solve it, or if they were the owner, how would they do things differently? Yes. Also do it in a way that's anonymous, so people tell you as the owner the ideas that they have, and they're not subject to criticism from other employees. And also remember that if you do use some of the ideas and suggestions that they bring, that you reward these employees either with public recognition or with actual bonuses, irregardless of whether those tests and those experiments work out or not. And in the summary, I will give the last couple of things to consider. So number one is a reality check. Yes. So it's critical to remember that experiments, by definition, are things that will most likely fail and not succeed. Yes, that's the nature of experiments. So it's important to be mentally prepared for setbacks. Yes, for things where you have a lot of hope and enthusiasm for a new idea, and you put in the effort and the work, and it just simply fails. And that can happen over and over again. And it's important to not only have yourself as an entrepreneur be emotionally ready for that, but also make sure that all the key people that are involved in these experiments also expect that the first thing you're going to do, it's not going to work out. The second thing you're going to do, possibly it's not going to work out. Yes. The second thing here is an important takeaway is that persistence is key. Again, it sounds kind of trivial. You need to keep trying, but in terms of experimentation, that is absolutely the name of the game. Interestingly, statistically, this is proven that people on average, irregardless of the field, they attempt a new thing in their lives only one time. Yes. Not even twice. Yes. So in business, if you want to get experiments done, it will take 2, 3, 4, 5 times until you get it right. I can use an example from my own experience where in the past, I think 4 years, I've launched 8 different new companies, new projects, new revenue sources, out of which 6 have failed, 1 has succeeded, and 1 remains still uncertain as to whether it's going to work out or not. And in that process, across those several years, I've lost a number of millions of euros. We've spent countless hours. We've hired many people that work across those projects, and they have failed. Yes. And if you want to have these breakthroughs that get your business to the next level, you simply have to be ready for that kind of math, yes, and statistics. And the third point, the last piece that I would say, is to adapt an MVP mindset, meaning a minimum viable product kind of approach, which in terms of experiments means that you focus on things that are fast and cheap. And those faster and cheaper experiments will give you good insights into where to kind of steer your company next. And by fast and cheap, I mean things that cost you maybe tens of thousands of euros and that you can execute in a matter of 2, 3, maximum of 6 months, as opposed to something that will cost you hundreds of thousands of euros and you'll have to spend a year or so, because that effectively means you're already significantly moving the direction of your company, assuming that company is a small, medium business. Yes. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's all I wanted to mention in terms of business experiments. Remember, experimentation is the thing, the art that can bring your business to when it has plateaued, when it has gotten stuck. Experiments is what it brings it to the next level. And importantly, you have to make sure that you as a business owner can spend time specifically not on the everyday operations, but on these experiments. And it all starts with you as the responsible person. You will have to have additional capital that you can spend in parallel to your existing business, and also be ready that you're going to do it for the first time, second time, third time. It's not going to work, but eventually it is successful if you keep being focused on these experiments.